All right, people, let's do this. This one's big right here. So welcome to the CCA virtual press conference for The Harder They Fall, screening right now on Netflix, but we're all cinemaphiles. We're all film heads. This is a better experience if you get a chance to check it out on the big screen. I highly recommend you do that. So let's get started right away. And just a note of caution, you guys are going to have to keep up. There's a lot of Shawns and a lot of Jeymes, and I'm about to do the introduction, starting first with producer extraordinaire, my main man, Jeymes Lassiter, but you can call him JL, in the house. Welcome to the party, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The next panelist probably needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. He's actually won more Grammys than the CCA has members. One of the greats of all time in the music space, now jumping into the film space. I'd like to introduce none other than Mr. Shawn, Jay-Z Carter. What's up, Jay?
All right, great introduction. Thank you, brother.
Hey, thank you, my man. Thank you.
By the way, it's two Shawns, two Jeymes, and I call myself Jay. It's just ridiculous over here. There's a lot of J's, a lot of Shawn.
Yeah, a lot of Jay.
How is that even possible?
It's what you call bringing greatness together for one fantastic virtual experience to talk about this dope movie. That's what you call it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Appreciate that.
And none of us would be here if it weren't for this guy. Man, what else can we say? Making his feature film debut.
No.
He's dabbled in the film space before. He's a musician, he's a producer, he's an all-around guy. Reminds me of my main man, Gordon Parks, from back in the day. He can do everything. So creative, so talented. Mr. Jeymes, the other Jeymes, Samuel, the director of The Harder They Fall. What's up, man?
My brother, please, great to be here. After that, I'm trying to be a little posh with it. Like, my brother, great to be here. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
this guy gives great introductions. We need to take him around.
He gives the best introductions ever.
Well, I want to say thank you because we had the honor and the pleasure of celebrating The Harder They Fall Monday night at the 4th annual celebration of Black cinema, where you guys were awarded the Ensemble Award, and JL was there, Jeymes Samuel was there, and thanks for being there. But it was actually an honor for us to honor that film for the great cast. So thanks for that.
Wow.
And that's where I'll start, because the thing that I've been saying is I have 2 young daughters, one 8, one 11, and I tell them all the time that the cast of The Harder They Fall are the real Avengers. We ain't gonna even like move any other direction. Those are the real Avengers. And I want to find out from you first, Jeymes Samuel, where did this idea originate from to bring this all to life cinematically?
Well, for me, I've always been into Westerns, right? Westerns are almost like the wallpaper of our childhoods. They were always on, even if you didn't like Westerns, or if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, they were just always on TV. They're always in the background. My mom and dad used to love them, so I grew up just loving them, from the TV shows to the movies, and I was addicted to the Westerns. I think maybe it's just the beauty of the golden sand, the horses, the mano gunplay, and just the things that attract like a little boy. And but the older I got, and the more maybe self-searching I got, like when you're looking for yourself in what you're viewing, I would never find it, right? And you would start asking these questions, like how is it every time they show women in these films, they're really submissive. They're subservient to a weak male plot. And every time they'll show people of color, submissive would be a compliment, right? They'll be treated less than human. And surely that's not the way. So as much as I love those Westerns, I just grew up kind of reading as much as I can on the Old West and reading how things really were back then. And you start uncovering all of these amazing real characters that really existed that you never learned about before. Rufus Buck, Stagecoach Mary, Cherokee Bill, Bill Pickett, Jim Becker, Ism Dart, all of these amazing people and men and women of the Old West, of color, right? And of stature. And as I started getting into film, I wanted to tell the stories of these guys. I wanted to tell them. I have so many arguments with people that we existed in that space and time. 1 in 4 cowboys was black. In fact, the name cowboy was fashioned after black people. White folks were called cowhands, right? But I'd be arguing with people of all colors, like even black people. Like, no, we were cowboys too. So, you know, it was just a natural progression for me as a filmmaker and loving Westerns as much as I do to want to tell that story. I just assemble them all like the Avengers in one place and one time so you can watch this story and then go and learn about these characters. So basically, the argument is dead once and forever.
No, I love it, man. I love it, man. I love your energy when you talk about it, man. It's really and truly infectious. The same level as the film, man. So I really appreciate that. And for you, JL, what did it take to convince you that, hey, let's jump on board and make this happen? What was that pitch like for you?
You just heard it. It's James's enthusiasm. I'm inspired by stories, not genre, or, you know, I'm inspired by stories and storytellers. So when Jeymes talks about the story, you're immediately inspired. You get it. You know, he has such a clear vision for it and such a passion for it that's what inspired me. That's what got me excited about it. It's not necessarily the genre. It could be any genre, but it's the story. And this story had so many layers and levels, and Jeymes understood them all. I mean, he had such a comprehension of this world and this story that I think, you know, I won't speak for Jay, but both Jay and I responded to that. That's what got us hooked in.
And for you, Mr. Carter, you don't often come on board to help produce film. So what was the selling point getting you behind this?
Again, you said it, you heard it. You know, Jeymes and I had, we met through J Electronica, and immediately, you know, he had a string session that day. I think J Electronica was trying to fleece me out of more budget. So he brought his talented friend along to, you know, show me that he was, you know, actually working. And we met, it wasn't Zoom then. It was like, what was those things called back? What was it called? Like,
it was Skype.
Skype.
Yeah.
That's how fast the world moves. I forgot Skype. It was Skype. And then we immediately connected from there. And then we did some work on Gatsby with Baz. And, you know, that began our relationship with like film and cinema. Obviously we worked on music with Jay Elect. And it's just that, like, I liken Jeymes to, like, you know, the first time you see someone like, you know, Kanye or Rihanna, you know, I'm just an A&R basically, you know, and recognizing that level of talent, that's something that, you know, not normal, like something that you only see once in the blue. And, you know, his talent, you know, I put up, you know, very high on those levels. And so, you know, I was interested in anything that he wanted to do. It just so happened that this story happened to be our first story. It's a bunch of stories like this. I know everyone says that after they had a movie, that's people like, you know, oh, we got 100 of these, right? And that never happens. That's a very, you know, big statement. But, you know, we have a lot of these. And this just happened to be the first one. And, you know, the fact that it was the first one and the fact that we was able on top of it to like educate even myself, like specifically, I knew we existed. I mean, obviously I knew we existed way beyond 400 years, right? It's almost like people draw a line that Black people started at slavery. And it's like, that's not the timeline, you know? Go back to Harold Wool. Start us at Harold Wool first, if that's where you want to start. And then I think we started before then, but, you know, start us at Harold Wool. And then, so, you know, that caveat and that cherry on top was just, you know, just beautiful. Anytime you can entertain and tell a beautiful story, like Jeymes said, you know, because it starts with the story. You know, the Western is just a setting. You know, it's almost like Brooklyn. You know, it's a setting for what took place at that time. And again, anytime you can tell a great story and then put that cherry on top with, now we're letting people be seen. My daughter's, you know, 9 and 4 as well. I mean, I have twins, a boy and a girl, but my daughter's, you know, 9 and 4, you know, now they're way ahead of the 8 ball, you know.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. And I don't want to get sued for copyright infringement, but that question I just asked you, Jay, was from my main man, Wilson Morales, who's a CCA member and represents blackfilmandtv.com. He's a real cool brother. So I don't want to have no beef after this.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Let's all do this right. Let's all do this right. Let's give everybody their acknowledgement and their prize.
Yeah. So that question was from Wilson Morales. It just fit the transition naturally, which leads to me going to you with this question, JL. And this is from CCA member Dom Fisher with Greek Vibes Nation. And a lot of people have been asking this question as well, but why was it important to highlight these real people in an exciting work of fiction rather than do something historical or truer to who they actually were?
I honestly, I think Jeymes just answered that question. I think he, you know, it's a really good question, Dom, but Jeymes just said it. We have to put a face on these people. They were unjustly erased from the history books. I knew about Nat Love. I knew about Rufus Buck. I heard of Stagecoach Mary, but now, you know, through this medium, which is a very, very powerful medium, we get to give these people their shine. We get to give them their light. You know, they'll live on. It was so heartening to me that, you know, you go online and look how many of these people were researched after people saw the movie. That's kind of the first thing people do. They watch the movie, they hear that these people existed, they hear that they were real, and they start going in on the research. I think that's one of the greatest gifts that we could give with this movie. Like, I didn't know the story about Cuffy. When I found, even while making a movie, when I found out Cuffy was a real person, I was fascinated. She has a fascinating story. I think that's what we have to do in general in America. We have to give, you know, historical figures their due. And that was really important. And to do it in this kind of exciting way and to do it in a really imaginative and creative way, I think was a perfect way to do it. It's not a history lesson. It's done as entertainment, but you still get the message.
Yeah, great point.
I think that like to Jeymes, just to add on to Jeymes, I know you asked Jeymes, but just to add on to that is, you know, there's a lot of people that would like the history to still stay uncovered. So if you present it, you know, as this is factual documentary footage, you know, you're gonna get people turned out to tune off, right? If you present it as, you know, here's a fictional story, but you know, you slip some things in there. I think that's what music does a great job at that. Whereas you just listen to music, you tuned in, you like the beat, and all this information is passing and it's entering your soul without you even knowing, you know. That's what I love about what The Harder They Fall is. Entertaining, but it's, you know, again, these people existed.
Yeah,
sorry, Shawn, to add on, like, I love that question that Dom asked. Here's the thing, that question wouldn't even exist if we didn't bring all those characters. The question in and of itself is the reason why it was worth doing a fictional story with all of those characters. Those characters didn't know each other. So if I just did a biopic on, say, Bass Reeves, no one would be talking about Nat Love. But now everyone's talking about Nat Love, Cherokee Bill, Rufus Buck, Stagecoach Mary, Gertrude Smith, Jim Beckwith, Bass Reeves, Wiley Esco. No one would. We wait 100 years of cinema. No one would be doing a movie of Wiley Esco. They'll go to the easy ones: Bass Reeves, Stagecoach Mary, maybe Cherokee Bill, maybe. Now we're speaking about, as JL said, all of these characters. The question that is posed is the reason why it was worth doing. And also, so no one could argue that we didn't exist. Now everyone's like, why didn't you do a biopic? Not everyone, but some people. Why didn't you do a biopic? Okay, so you acknowledge we exist now then. Prior to The Harder They Fall, I can't find no receipts of anyone talking about these characters. You know what I mean? So it's an amazing thing. So thanks for that question.
No, that was a great question. Let me do a quick follow-up on that. Was there anyone that you discovered that you wanted to include in the film that you couldn't fit in?
No, because Shawn, I'm going to return to the Old West. So there's mad more characters. Like in my short film, They Die by Dawn,
Right.
I had Giancarlo Esposito play Ism Dart, who's another wicked character. But there's Ism Dart, Ben Hodges. There's so many like dope characters. I just needed to. I didn't even want. It wasn't characters that I couldn't fit in. I was like, oh, I don't want to offload all of these on one. Should I pull a couple of these? Should I pull a couple of these back? You know what I mean? So when I go and do a prequel and a sequel, I'll bring in even more. By the time I'm finished with the Old West, I'm gonna call you, Shawn, to start inventing some characters.
We do that. We do that. Yeah, we can make that. Yeah, we definitely can make that happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. This next question is for Jay-Z. It's from one of our more gifted writers. Her name is Kathia Woods. Her outlet's The Cup of Soul Show, and she wants to know from you, other than the all-black cast, what else was important for you to have on screen in this film?
That's a great question as well. Just the complexity of characters and of the human spirit. You know, Rufus Buck, like his goal was noble, right? He wanted to organize and get this town in a place where it was self-funded and self-sustaining, right? Before he knew what was coming. He knew that the Emancipation Proclamation and all these people were going to come through and say they discovered West while there were people currently in the West, like living and growing families. He knew that was coming. So there's a part in the movie where they say Dion Cole's character, he comes and he brings all these guns and he says, Rufus Buck has all these guns like hidden in all the hills. And it's like, yeah, he got the illest guns in the world. He doesn't have those guns hidden in the hill for outlaws. He's gonna outshoot them, right? He knows what's coming. And so, at times, we look at him as the villain and he's really, his goal is noble. And we look at Nat Love as the good guy, and Nat Love is leading people, and he starts off, his first shot is, shooting everybody. Okay, so who's the villain here? And, I grew up in a lot of those circumstances where there were guys who'd be like, man, you would look at that guy and say, Slate, he's a gangster. But we don't know Slate's situation. We don't know who he's trying to feed. We don't know his mama had cancer and, he went to get a job and he tried to get a job and there was no opportunities and he wanted to open the barbershop and he went to get a loan and they was like, you don't qualify for a loan because you have no experience. Well, how can I get experience if you don't give me a loan? And, just the situations of a lot of people that I grew up with that could have been, who were brilliant and could have been the CEO of any company, of, Apple, of Twitter, of anything, but just wasn't presented, just wasn't in college in Seattle at 1979 and had access to a computer to, exercise their brilliance. So they had to take their brilliance out in other ways and they became CEOs of their own corporations on the street. Are those guys bad guys? You know what I'm saying? Like, so, to answer the question, we love talking, as you see, is, I just wanted the complexity of characters to reach the screen and show that, everything is not at black and white. We talk a lot about all black cast and all, the nuance lies in the gray areas. And, that's why all those Easter eggs, that Jeymes put in there that, we all worked on is just, it's the things that we like got extra hype about. Like, we were saying in things and be like, oh yeah, that's gonna be the one. That's it right there. Yeah. That was the type of things that get us excited.
Oh, fantastic. Now, this next question is for everyone. It's from Brian Kugler with High Def Digest. And he wants to know, it's obvious that all of you are big cinema aficionados. So what particular scenes in movies have always stuck with you over the years that inspired you creatively to help you bring The Harder They Fall to the big screen and on Netflix?
Can I go first?
Yes, you can.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Go first.
Yeah.
So the way Jeymes is so passionate about Westerns and he grew up watching Westerns, that's how I grew up watching karate movies, kung fu movies. And there's a lot of parallels also. So after reading the script, we all talked about it, and I just kept saying to Jeymes, Jim Beckworth is Bruce Lee. Jim Beckworth is Bruce Lee. He has to feel like Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. Just Bruce Lee went to Mr. Han's Island and fought everybody. He had confidence, he had swagger. And I would say he has to handle the guns, the 6-shooters, like Bruce Lee does the nunchucks. It's like, that's our Bruce Lee in the movie. So it's the Bruce Lee movies and the Kung Fu movies that those scenes inspired us with Jim Beckworth.
Great answer, great answer.
And for me, it's gonna sound, typical because it's Godfather too, right? And it's just, again, there's nuance, right? When they say it's business, it's the family business. And the things they're doing, we know, are not always right. But they tell a lot about characters in a small space, right? You know exactly who Michael was when he was in his bedroom and he looked and he saw the curtain open, and immediately it's like, was those curtains open? And from there, he was like, those curtains, they shouldn't be open, right? You knew the you knew the mentality. You knew he was a thinker. You knew he was strategic. You knew he was a chess player. He knew when he was being outsmarted, right? As opposed to Fredo. You knew exactly who Fredo was. They showed you like he had the pneumonia and they put the little thing on his chest and he needed more coddling. Like, and they telling you a whole lot in a little bit of, in a small space. And those are sort of things that I look for in film.
That might have been one of the best breakdowns of The Godfather ever. That was nice. Dope. That was dope. That was good. That was good. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I would say, for me, there's a scene in Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right? And it tells you everything you need to know about film. Richard Dreyfuss is parked in his car on the side of the road, and it's dark, it's night, and he's got his little torch and he's got his map, and he's trying to find somewhere. He's driven toward this thing that he doesn't know, and he's trying to find somewhere in a map. And these headlights come behind him because he's in the middle of the highway, this guy, right? And these headlights come behind him they come behind him and they go to the side, and the guy drives off and beeps, beep, shut up, go on. And he's still there with his torch. He's looking at the map. And his headlights come behind him. There's another car comes behind him and stops, just like the way the other car does, and does this. And goes over his head. I remember watching that as a kid. Like, what the hell? It was the aliens. Now, that bit when the headlights come behind him and lift up, those few seconds is storytelling and film. It took you somewhere to make you anticipate what you thought it was, and it was something wholly different. You thought they were going to go off to the side, but they rose and flew off, introducing the aliens. I do that in The Harder They Fall in every single showdown. Countdown from 5. You're used to hearing the countdown. It's a Western. 5, 4, 3. The headlights lift. You give me a showdown in The Harder They Fall, I'll show you where the headlights come behind you. We're anticipating one thing, and they lift and fly away. I'll say that particular scene or shot rather, it informs 70% of the decisions I make when I'm writing a script. Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
That's a great answer. That's dope. I'm gonna put this Q&A on loop whenever I need some energy when I'm kind of low, because the way you just answered that question, like, you can see why this movie's so dope. All right, so
but we hung with you the other day, Shawn. You got mad energy yourself.
Hey, it was a great night. We'll talk about that. But no, I'm still buzzing off of Monday night. It was great. So it was all good. And this next question is for Jay. Then we're going to do a rapid fire because we're getting close to running out of time. Because you knew a lot of people want to ask questions about the music as well. They should. But one last non-music related question, which is sort of a music related question, comes from Matt Mungo from the Entertainment Answer. This is for Jay-Z. What are the parallels between rap and film when it comes to powerful storytelling and conveying a message to a large audience?
They're closer. That's a great question as well. They're one and the same. I tell people all the time, you know, rap is good storytellers. You know, the way Biggie told that story in A Story to Tell, you were there. You know exactly the characters. You knew the personality of the guy there. You knew the personality of the guy coming home from playing with the Knicks. They're one and the same. Great storytelling is a beginning, middle, and then some sort of surprise, right? Some surprise that you didn't see, like Jeymes' close encounter. It was some kind of storytelling that you didn't expect. Everything's going fine, and it goes this way, and Meet the Parents. When I tell a story of these kids who meet and they never met their father, and the whole thing is just a PSA. I give you the answer before the song starts. Meet the Parents. I give you the answer. The answer is meet your parents, or this sort of thing can happen. And it's this big, long, drawn out story to say these simple words. And, film is the same way. It's these big, long 2-hour spectacles and the cars thing. And this one crashed and this one came through and the helicopter crashed and I jumped over a car and I slid on top of the hood. And I really just want to tell a story of, these people existed. So it's pretty much one and the same. It's just great storytelling is great storytelling. Even a chef, it's great storytelling. The way they prepare a plate, it's like, okay, I'm going to put these things and, at the end of the day, it's just what level of sacrifice are you applying to your field, right? I want people to really enjoy this food. I make it with love. And here's the story that I'm going to tell. I'm going to take you to a Greek island and here's the things that I'm placing around it so your mind can get lost into this, whatever you're doing, this evening of dining. For us, it's all storytelling. Basquiat, what he was doing, Barclay Hendricks. I see, Jeymes, you got a new piece behind you there. It's just all story. It's all storytelling, No,
it's a great, that's a great answer. Now let's talk a little bit about the music. We'll start first with the soundtrack. In my opinion, and I can't speak for the other Critics' Choice Association members, but I rank that soundtrack right up there next to Superfly, produced by Curtis Mayfield,
Wow.
produced by Prince, because it's one of the rare soundtracks in which you can actually push play, listen to it from start to finish, close your eyes, be blindfolded or whatever, and you can still see the movie. And few soundtracks are able to convey that the way that your soundtrack did, along with Purple Rain, Superfly, and a couple of others. How did this collaboration begin, and what came first, the music or the film? Because the interplay and the music drops are so seamless and perfect. I mean, even just a small verse of a Lauryn Hill song fits so perfectly in that moment. How did it all come together? I'll start with you first, Jeymes.
Well, for me, this is a great segue into from the last question to this. For me, music and film are the exact same thing, right? Song and script are the same. It's interesting that Jay said about chefs, the way a chef prepares a plate, storytelling, which is a song is like a script is like 3 acts. A song is 3 verses, really, 2 verses. Chefs prepare 3 courses. It's a crazy thing, right? It's literally all storytelling. I found that when I've always believed composers should work with the director from the script stage, not in post-production. A lot of times composers come on in post, they're watching the film already done. But really, if a director had the opportunity to work with the composer before he shoots a frame of footage, the melodies can inform what shots the director tells them, how the camera tells us the story. So for me, words are melodies. Right? Words, there's no word that isn't in a key or a chord. So when I'm writing the script, I'm also composing the score at the literally exact same time. Then I'll be writing the songs at the same time as I'm writing the script, and I'll weave them in and out of each other. The reason for that is because the film, the score, and the soundtrack are one continuous stream of consciousness. And I believe that we're in an age where we've lost the art of the soundtrack. Soundtracks now are glorified compilation albums. It's like one song that may be the title of the thing or something to do with the film, and then the rest of the songs are just like a compilation albums, as opposed to the days of Purple Rain, where every single song had something to do with what was going on Superfly. Freddie's dead, that Eddie, you should know better. Like all of those things were part of the film, and every single song in this movie directly correlates to the film. I'll conclude quickly by saying we did a Kaiser Soze moment in this movie, where remember when Chaz Palminteri realizes that verbal kin is the cup on the back of the cup, Kobayashi, and the twist at the end of this film is really given to you in the opening title credits, Shawn, by Jay's 12 bars. Remember we saying like the correlation between rap and story? Jay tells you the story in the opening credits, but you're just on your Jay-Z trip and like 17, but when you break down 17, stretch, it'll change. Mama always said you was an angel. Papa got ghosts, but the was he never came. He gives you the story in 12 bars, 4 times 3. Gives you first act, second act, third act. You don't realize it because you're just taking in all of this information, but that's how we, that was our ethos for doing the music and going straight in and bringing it to one kind of complete thought, which is why it really is an honor for me to listen to you saying that, oh, this is up there with those soundtracks, because that's a really great compliment, because that's what I wanted it to be. That's the feeling I was going for.
It's amazing. It's an amazing soundtrack, and man, you should be a point guard, because that was a perfect pass. What you just said to this next question, which is Jay-Z, that talks about that verse on the opening song, and they want to know, can you talk about that verse and how you approach that piece in one verse, and and how you summarize that in the story of Nat Love? What was the execution and the process like for you?
Sure, but before I go, I definitely got to say thank you for that. That huge compliment, because those are the things that we look to and we revere, and that hey, can we extend this a little? I don't know what you guys have to do, like 15 minutes. It's extended.
Cool.
Yeah. So, those are the things that we look to, and when we're looking for inspiration and we're looking for, okay, how do we make the best piece of product? And we're looking at the things that came before us, and we're taking inspiration from that. And of course, Prince and Curtis Mayfield is at the top of the list for us. I think it's somewhere along the line, someone got clever and said, Prince, wow, why do we need to stick to the story? Let's just get somebody popular and it's going to draw people to the movie. It's a great business move. I understand the idea where it came from. And then it gets further away from the original thought. The original thought when you're making the movie is to make the music and the film one, right? Someone got super clever and said, well, if I get Michael Jackson, he's going to sell the film. He's not going to make a song about the film. It don't matter. Any song he make is going to sell the film. So we got away from, the days of making music and film one thing. And it was important for us to stick to those things that we loved. And as far as the question, I had that track for a minute. I had it before Cuddy was on it. We had the thought of doing that song. And then I was in my house in New York in the summer, and Jeymes was in a string section. Wow, how crazy how that came back full circle. He was in a string section, and they were putting strings on a song, and that one, it just opened my mind up. And we were in the editing portion of the movie, and we were making sure with Jeymes, the two Jeymes, that the story we were telling was complete and clear. So we were always talking about, how do we make this clear? How do we do this? And how do we do that? So that was in my mind already. So between the strings and being in the middle of the process of how do we make this movie clear, I just told the entire story of the movie in 12 bars. That's how that pretty much came together. And
Genius.
yeah.
What was the total process? How long did it take you to pull the whole soundtrack together? And what was the selection process to reach out and get all the different artists that you included on the soundtrack? What was that collaboration process like? I mean, Jeymes, JL can jump on it, Jay can jump. How did it all go down? Because it's such an eclectic group of people and artists, but they all naturally fit in telling this unified story.
That's actually it, Shawn. Like I was working on the soundtrack, like, me and Jay, my relationship with Jay and JL expands far outside of music. Like we're always together. So we're always cooking, like we're always making stuff. I think like it's been a bit more scarce now, but I got a call 2 days ago. Like usually like twice a week, Jay will call me and be like, "You by yourself?" I'm like, "Yes." Then he'll give me the bars of life that he's working on. Here's the thing, Shawn, I'm hardly ever by myself. But I know that if I tell him I'm not by myself, I'm not gonna get the bars. So basically, and he just gives me the bars of life. And this is our relationship. So I'm always making music. Shawn, Jay is always making, we're always creating. JL is always coming up with something and just creating just stories and this and that and the other. So when I write interior, I'm already, from the first page of dialogue, years ago when I wrote this script, I was already working on the music and the score, and I had all the motifs. And then choosing the artists is really, it's as Jay says, about the story. It's not about like who's the most famous person to sell the track, which is why Lauryn Hill is on the same record as a woman from Mali called Fatoumata Diawara. Then we'll have Jay-Z on a record with a guy that's unknown from the UK called Back Row G doing the chorus on King Kong rhythm. It's all about selecting the artists that you're collaborating with for the soundtrack. Is all about the story. It's all about the story of the song, which leads to the story of the film. And that was like a really organic process, like just putting the different artists on it, coming in with Cuddy, having him understand the story and him writing a bit of the song as well. And just, it's really just an organic thing.
Yeah, we all were in service of the movie, the film, as opposed to in service of ourselves. And let's get the biggest artist we can find. We actually was like, whose voice right here? You got dark skinned mouths, and you're like, whose voice would be perfect for this scene? And we all were in service of the film.
No, I'm glad you were. Guns Go Bang is an incredible song. And what's that thing on Spotify where they tell you the most listened to song of the year? It popped up on my phone the other day. Well, my number one was Guns Go Bang. So I just had it on, like, which was incredible because the soundtrack didn't really come out to sort of like toward the end of the year.
I was about to say, you made it for a lot of time. That's 9 months.
Guns Go Bang. Guns Go Bang.
Guns Go Bang. Bang hard. It's a dope
It's
track.
a hard joint.
And it's a great way to start a movie. It's right up there with Do the Right Thing, with PE and Black Power.
Thank you, man.
It's like when you hype after just watching the title treatment, you in for a ride.
It's crazy, right? It's crazy.
Right. That's what you want.
As soon as you hear like James come in with the graphics and stuff, even me, like that director of the film, I'm like, you know what I mean? This thing go hard.
Well, there's so many elements to talk about this movie. I know we got short time. I know we got the extension, but I do want to talk about something that I think is really something cool to bring up. And this question's from Robert Sims from Lights Camera Austin, Texas in the house. He asked, I believe you shot the scenes in Redwood at Carol Pelham Ranch. And If so, what was the process of transforming the ranch's movie town into what you wanted to convey with Redwood throughout the film and some of the other cities that you built? And JL, how crazy was that process? Because it looked costly.
It was a crazy process. It was a typical Western town, Redwood we're speaking of. But James's vision from the beginning was, I don't want to make a dusty Western. I want color. I want it to be vibrant. And in some of our story meetings, we talked about what is the industry in Redwood? And we landed on, it's a textile town. Aside from banking and your normal things, it's a textile town. So that's where you get the color and the vibrancy from. It's the dyes, as you see in the Mary Trudy fight, they're fighting in kind of the barn where they do the dyes. So with our incredible art direction team and Martin Wist, the set decorators, they transformed that town. Like the mayor's mansion wasn't there. We built that, and everything was colorful. It was unlike anything you had ever seen. And it was the opposite, the antithesis of what you normally see in the Western, which is kind of just gray and tan and dusty. So that transformation was pretty spectacular and amazing.
Yeah. Also, just having fun with the expectation that, again, the lights behind the car and going up. When Bill Pickett says Mayville, that's a white town. Immediately you think of people, and then we go to Mayville, and it's a white town. Like I always say, when you're creating, obey your crazy. When you have like a crazy thought, and it was costly, but then Netflix kind of they believed in it. I did get a call about that one from our budget guy Kwame, like, James, we think your appetite has grown. I was like, it hasn't grown. Like, he went, a white town, James, white ground, because that wasn't in the script. I didn't put that in the script purposely, like, because I knew I'll get kicked back. He was like, white ground? And I was like, yeah, but my appetite hasn't grown, Kwame. Like, the whole town is white. It plays on people. He went, white horses, James? There are no white horses in New Mexico. Like, I didn't say New Mexican white horses. They come ready. But we do it, and it plays really well. It's a really humorous thing, because you're not expecting it. Like, okay, Maysville, it's a white town. We told you it was white. The actual town being white, which lends to like and that town looked nothing like that. I don't know if you remember, JL, how grim and dark it was. You changed the color of the ground in the town and stuff. So some of them were costly, but I think all of us wanted to just make a film that disobeyed the stereotypes and like turned all of the tropes upside down from what we usually expect. You know what I mean? Because remember, if you go back to the Old West, a lot of those towns were new. They were freshly built, so they would look new. But when you look at the films, they make them dusty, and these are things that are Hollywood decisions, not necessarily how it actually was back then.
No, well, I'm glad you're putting the new in front of Hollywood. This is like the new Hollywood. This the new take on it. And I'm glad you decided to do the white towns, because on the streets, you do know that's one of the most talked about scenes in the movie. Like,
yeah.
People on the street.
I need to get back to the streets a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From what I hear out.
Now let's give props to also to the costume design. Talk a little bit about the costume design and the personnel behind that. This is amazing. Yeah.
You want to go, JL?
No, you got it.
Our costume designer, Antoinette Messon, like, she was one of the first heads of departments that was hired for the film, and she just spoke the language that I was speaking about. You meet a bunch of people. Then I met her. She's Jamaican via Canada. Everything she kind of does is from a outsider's kind of point of view, and she kind of hops into your brain and interprets what you're doing and puts her spin on it. So she just understood exactly what I meant with Trudy Smith being a badass that wears a dress with a bowler hat that signifies she takes over a man's world. Stagecoach Mary with her top hat, and Antoinette just understood all of this and worked seamlessly with our production designer Martin Wist, and they were just, it was literally like a like a wave. And sometimes Antoinette would she'd be teaching me stuff as well. Like, I was like, I don't want that color. It looks the same as that color. She'd be like, they're two different colors, Jeymes, and they look totally different on camera. We'll do a camera test, and they look totally different on camera. She was right every time. I stopped making a fuss. I knew we were in good hands, and she understood that there was a guy in cowboy days. His name was Charlie Utter. He used to hang out with a man called Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane. Charlie Utter, right? And he was obsessed. You can Wikipedia this guy. He was obsessed with only wearing clothes from overseas and taking a bath every single day. Isn't that crazy? This guy was basically a 2021 guy in a Kanye fashion show, right? And my point is, like, even people then were swaggy and really image conscious, and I really wanted to portray that, as opposed to portraying like just the regular Western where everyone's like dusty and, you know, everyone. Clint Eastwood's poncho that he wears in For a Fistful of Dollars was his own poncho. That was his own. I'm wearing this. So think of that mentality, like, but just how we accept these things as cowboy clothes. Cowboys didn't wear ponchos. Like, that's Clint Eastwood that took it to
right.
Spain. So, you know, Antoinette like understood all of that ethos and understood what I was trying to do musically, cinematically. She understood the angle that myself, Jay-Z, and JL were taken into this story. You know, Jay always says, Z always says, look, if we make a Western and this movie's seen as a Western, we failed. It's a film. It's a story. A Western is literally just the time and the place that it's shot in. It's a story. We're telling a story, and we're putting all of these nuances in it to really give you a feeling, to make you lose yourself and immerse yourself in this colorful, swagged out, beautiful, heartbreaking, soul-searching adventure. And that comes down to the costume, the story, and and everything else.
Yeah, and avoiding like the usual tropes. And like, you know, I don't know Black people since the beginning of time where their mother said, "Boy, you better get in the bath."
Yeah,
that's just that. I don't think you've never met a Black person whose mother didn't say, "You better get in the bath today."
Yeah.
We were never dusty. That just didn't exist. That's not true. We were never dusty, ever, never happened. And like Jeymes said, that typical garment we just accept is true. There's no ponchos. There's no Indians circling with wagons.
Right.
You know, the music that was being played, that's not Western music.
Yeah.
We just accept that. Like, we just accept that.
Not
so
of the
when
era.
you hear Barrington Lee, say it again.
No, just not music of the era. It's not from
Yeah, exactly. So when you hear Barrington Lee, you say, "Oh, that's not Western music." Neither is that. Neither is that. What is it? Is it Italian guitar? Is it Italian guitar?
Yeah, exactly.
So neither is the Italian guitar in Oklahoma.
Well, that's
now
the
you
best.
hear these things. Yeah, go ahead.
We just accept them, right, as law.
That's the best aspect of The Harder They Fall. It serves as sort of a historical corrective. It did the one thing that you always want cinema to do, man. It forced people to dig deeper and reach further. And that's a compliment to you, JL. That's a compliment to you, Jay-Z. And that's a compliment to you, Jeymes Samuel. And we could literally talk about this incredible movie like all day, but unfortunately we got to go because y'all got things to do. But I can see why the movie's so dope. The three of you have tremendous both personal and creative chemistry, which is what matters. And we appreciate you taking our time to talk to the Critics' Choice Association. Thanks once again for helping us celebrate Black cinema on Monday night. Congratulations on the Ensemble Award. And just congratulations on being creators with a focus and a purpose, man. I love seeing that. Wish you guys nothing but the best of luck in the future. You don't really need luck. You guys are already killing it. But thank you for bringing this story to life. Thanks, Netflix, for bringing this story to life. And thanks for taking our time this afternoon to talk to the members of the Critics' Choice Association. I believe there's more than 500 members in the group. On behalf of myself, man, this has been a true treat. I got to meet you guys in person on Monday and hang out with you virtually. My week's good. My week's done.
Right.
Thank you,
man. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
Sir.
Thank you, brother. It means a lot.
Thanks, Jay-Z. Thanks, Jeymes.
Peace.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thanks, Netflix.